see the teacher, you'll see the desks, chairs, table, the blackboard, you'll see the windows just where they were. If you walked up to one of the windows and looked out, you see the same sights you saw when you were a little kid. And you see that just so clearly. And you'll see just where, you see that room with all the kids in it, the teacher there and everything, when I count to 3 and snap my fingers. Don't try, don't do anything. Just say to yourself, that would be a nice thing to have happen. And all of a sudden you'll be back in the first grade. 1, 2, 3, and here we go. There you are. Take a look around the room, Jane. Take a look at the teacher. Man or woman?
Woman.
And do you like this teacher?
No.
You don't like this teacher. Is there something about her that you don't like?
Yeah.
What is it? What is it, June, makes you not like this teacher?
She put me in a baby buggy.
Put you in a baby buggy. I don't blame her for not liking her.
She's pushed me around the room.
Pushed you around the room. We may have the cause of a tick already.
She's whipped me.
Yeah. See, we go right to it. Right to the cause. There it is. There is the cause. There is the cause. Little kid in school. These things happen in hypnoanalysis so frequently. You don't think you're reaching for the cause at all. You think you're just gonna take a person back and you're gonna let them see something. And because a traumatic incident has left such an impact on them, they revert to the exact thing which caused all the trouble. That teacher didn't know that she was causing this boy to be left with a sob below the level of conscious awareness. He could stop crying consciously, but inside of him he couldn't stop crying. And so what happens? I tell you, so often we have found this in tracing ticks down. Usually ticks like this. What does it say? That there's a sob there, a sob below the level of conscious awareness. Jean has probably not been able to relive this incident because of the fact that it was so unpleasant to him that the mere thought of it gave him such a terrible feeling inside of him, as it would you if a teacher insulted you like that. Now, what happens as a result? The crying continues at a level below consciousness. And when he's asleep at night, or when the guards are down, back comes the thought of this terrible hurt that the teacher gave him as a little boy. And he begins sobbing. Now let those thoughts unconsciously occur to him during the daytime, and he will develop a this. And what does it really say? He's trying to stifle a sob. I have found this to be so true in investigating tics. It's seldom that you go right to the cause like we did here so fast. But it's because I know that the tic says, that's what it's saying. It's an unconscious sob. He stifles it at conscious level, but at unconscious level, the sob is still there. And so, that's what it is. Now, they will stifle the sound that goes with the sob, but because it's an unconscious sob, it's just the physical manifestation is this. And every time anything embarrassing happens, anytime anybody makes this man feel uncomfortable, the tic occurs. And gradually it gets worse and worse and worse. Now it is accompanied by sniffles. Now, I told you that a tic develops this way. The first time it happens is in childhood, and he manages to stifle it pretty well because he's a youngster, he hasn't had much trouble in his lifetime, he's able to cope with it. he's able to cope with these various things. Now, but as he grows older, another trigger mechanism sets the thing going again. Now, if I am right, we are going to find, in this case, another incident which occurred later. He may be, from the time he was 6 years old, probably had a trace of a tick. Is that right, Gene? Am I right so far?
A little.
Little. Now, we come to the point where the trigger mechanism was set off, which made the tick manifest itself to a marked degree, to the point where he could now notice it and where other people could notice it. So, Gene, first let's go back to the tick incident in school. That is the thing that probably caused it to manifest itself the first time. Gene, I want you to see yourself, because the reliving of it, you'd be surprised what it'll do for you. It'll act like a mental cathartic. It'll just clean out that mind, do you know what I mean, of the incident. You're a grown man now. You know how that incident hurt. I'm not asking you to undergo any punishment. God knows you had enough punishment when you were 6 years old with that thing. But I know that if I can get you to actually feel yourself being ridden around in the room again and relive the incident, that I can get it out of your mind once and for all, so it won't trouble you anymore. Would you like that? All right, so we'll get rid of that traumatic incident, the first thing. When I snap my fingers, you'll just feel as though you're in that first grade room being wheeled around in the baby carriage. And I know how badly you felt. And I'm not going to try to spare your feelings in this thing, because I know that in order to give you a mental cathartic, I've got to let you do this. You understand that, don't you, Gene? There's no attempt, no thought in my mind of punishing you. It's merely once and for all, let's get it out of your system. And we can do that by having you relive it. Do you mind if we do it then? Because you'd like to get rid of that incident once and for all, wouldn't you? So when I count to 3 and snap my fingers, it'll feel just as though you're being ridden around in the baby carriage. And then when I snap my fingers, it'll stop, and you'll be rid of that. 1, 2, 3, there you are in the carriage. Now, right around. All right, that's enough. Now take it away. That's enough. You've relived it. That's it. It's gone now. You feel better because you got that out of your system, don't you? Huh? Sure you do. Now, Gene, just letting you get that out of your system like that, it doesn't take long to get that out of your system, but I want you to notice how much better you feel now that that's happened. You do, don't you? Mm-hmm. This has been universally true. Freud discovered it, and many people since Freud have discovered that in that reaction, even if you make it short, like I did this one, will cleanse it out of a person's system so that they're no longer affected by it. And I don't think you'll find that traumatic incident, and that's what it was, will affect you anymore. And you'll find now that we can go right to the time when the trigger mechanism went off, that set the tick once and for all as you grew older in life. Now, after you were 6 years old, could anybody else ever notice that you had a tick, or were you the only one that noticed that every once in a while your face sort of made a...
Oh, boys and girls noticed it.
Boys and girls noticed it. Was it a very bad one when you were a kid?
Not too bad.
Had it ever happened before you were 6 years old?
Don't recall.
Don't recall? Let's take you back to the time when you were 4 years old, and let's see if we're absolutely right. Let's check it. Do you mind, Gene? All right. Did you have Christmas at your house? All right. When I snap my fingers, you'll see your 4-year-old Christmas tree. And you'll see it just as clear as you saw it then. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Take a look at it. Nice? Tell me, Gene, look at the presents and everything. Mother there? Daddy there? This 4-year-old boy, Gene, has he got many presents now that he's 4 years old at Christmas? Huh? Few. Take a look at them. What are they?
There's a blackboard.
Yeah.
Sled.
Blackboard and a sled, yeah.
Basketball.
Uh-huh.
Marble.
Uh-huh. This boy's a pretty active little fella, isn't he? Huh? Gene is a pretty active little fella, isn't he? All right. Now, Gene, you're 4 years old, and I want to ask you something. Does anybody ever tell you that you got a tick or anything like that?
No.
You don't have a tick, do you? You're 4 years old. You don't have one, do you? Or do you? You can tell me. You don't have a tick.
Don't see that.
All right. Now we're going to be 5 years old. You're going to see your 5-year-old Christmas tree. And notice how different this one is. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Take a look at it, Gene. How's this one look?
Okay.
Bigger or smaller?
About the same.
About the same. Take a look at the presents. Nice. What you got this year? What they give you?
Wagon.
Wagon? Like
Wooden wagon.
Wooden wagon. You like it?
Yeah.
And take a look at the other presents. What other presents are there?
Football.
Football. Hey, last year they got you basketball, this year football. You're a pretty active little boy, aren't you?
Yes, sir.
Gene, do you have a tick, what they call a tick? You're 5 years old. Do you have a tick? Do you know what a tick is?
No.
Don't know what a tick is. Apparently you haven't got it. Now you'll be 6 years old, and it'll be your 6-year-old birthday, or 6-year-old Christmas tree. And let's see if you got the tick. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. There we are. Gene, this is your 6th Christmas. Take a look at the tree. Does this look the same as the others?
Yeah, bigger.
Bigger than the others. What have we got for you this year?
Oh, there's some games there.
Some games there? Have you learned? Ball. You're playing baseball now, huh?
I haven't got no bat.
Haven't got no bat. I see. All right. But I bet you're going to learn, aren't you?
Yeah.
Tell me, Gene, you're 6 years old and it's Christmas time. Does anybody ever ask if you have a tick, or do you ever have a tick?
Yeah.
You do have a tick.
Can't keep my hair out.
Can't keep your hair out of your eyes. Uh-huh. And tell me, Gene, you're 6 years old. It's at Christmas time. Do you like that first grade teacher?
No.
No. Why? Oh, it's happened. Oh, then that's what caused the tick. Now we have it. Yeah. All right. Now, Gene, all right. Now it's not going to affect you anymore. All right. All right, Gene. It's all. Now we know what caused the tick, don't we, Gene? Huh? And wasn't the hair getting in your eyes at all, was it? It was the fact that you were always crying at a level below consciousness. I must make this point with every doctor. A cry below the level of consciousness has not been recognized in medicine. And I think we were the ones to discover it. And I think that in years to come, medicine will realize that this is one of the most important discoveries that has been made in the field of psychotherapy. That a cry can occur at a level below consciousness, and that's what causes asthma, and that's what causes hay fever, and that's what causes so many things. For every time I've ever traced one of these things down, a tick, hay fever, anything like that. What is a tick but it's a sob. And if you can't see its similarity to a sob, it's just because you have no imagination, because when it's brought to you as vividly as this, can you possibly doubt that that's what causes a tick? And it's gotten worse in the past few years.
Yes, sir.
It has, huh? Ever since you were about 6, it kept getting worse. Is that right?
I believe.
You believe? Well, we know you didn't have it before you were 6. And now from 6 to 10, has it gotten worse over the past few years? Mm-hmm. In a little while, we're going to take you to the time when you were 15. 15 years of age. When I snap my fingers, you'll be 15, Gene. Stay 15 now. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, and here we are. You're 15, Gene. Tell me, do you have a tick?
Yes, sir.
You do. Is it pretty bad?
Yes, sir.
Has anything happened in the past few years to make it worse? It's just gotten worse by itself, without any help. It's just stayed that way ever since you were a little boy.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any idea what caused it? Have no idea what caused it. You're 15 years old and you have no idea what caused it. Do you have any sniffles or anything?
No, sir.
In other words, here's the exception. The tick got worse. The tick got worse, but now watch us come to the sniffles. And you'll see that this is merely a further manifestation of the first symptom. It sounds dogmatic to me to make a statement like that, and I can be entirely wrong. But I know what these things do. They start with a sob below conscious awareness, and they develop and develop and develop and develop, and something comes along which sets them off furiously. So now he has the tick and the sniffle. So let's find out about the sniffle now, Gene. We're going to the day or the time when you first got the sniffles. You're 25 years of age when I snap my fingers. I don't know if you got the sniffles then, but we'll find out if you did. You aren't sniffling at 15, are you?
No, sir.
All right. Now you're 25. You're 25 years old. Gene, you still have the tick, I guess, huh?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any sniffles? You're 25. Got any sniffles?
No, sir.
No, sir. There's no sniffle there. All right, we're going to the time now when you're 30. When I snap my fingers, you'll be 30 years of age. There you are, you're 30 years of age. Gene, you still have a tick. Do you have any sniffles?
Yes, sir.
You do. And something happened between the time you were 25 and 30 to cause you to have the sniffles. So when I snap my fingers, it'll be about a week before you have the sniffles. And we find out how old you are. Here you are. I snap my fingers, it'll be about a week before you first got the sniffles. There we are. Gene, where are you?
Service.
And you're in service. What part of the service are you in?
Navy.
Navy. Where are you? What part of the country? What part of the world?
California.
California. Stationed there permanently or?
Boat.
Boat.
Powerboat.
Fireboat. All right. Now, Gene, you got a tick, haven't you? But you don't have sniffle. Do you?
No, sir.
All right. Now it's one day before you got the sniffles when I snap my fingers. There you are. Where are you, Gene?
Terminal Island.
Where?
Terminal Island.
Terminal Island?
California, Navy base.
In Navy base. Are you on the boat?
Yes, sir.
How are things going on the boat?
Sir?
How are things going on the boat?
Fine.
Do you enjoy the Navy?
Yes, sir.
Like the Navy. All right. Anything been happening lately?
No, sir.
How are you getting along at home? Everything going along good at home?
Yes, sir.
Everything going along good in the Navy?
Yes, sir.
Now, when I snap my fingers, this will be the first day you got the sniffles. And it'll be about 10 minutes before you got the sniffles. Here we are. Where are you?
Lighting a fire.
Fighting a fire. Where are you?
Board ship.
Board ship, and there's a fire. On ship or on another ship?
Quite a few.
On quite a few ships. And you're fighting them.
Yes, sir.
How close are you to the danger?
Right in the middle of all.
Right in the middle of all. And what's happened?
Oil.
Oil.
Gas.
And you're getting that, is that right?
Yes,
and are you in danger?
Yes, sir.
In terrific danger, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And now we know what caused the sniffles, don't we?
Yes, sir.
All right. Now, I want you to relive it so that you don't have to have any more sniffles afterwards, because you'll realize now that if that's what caused it, you don't have to have sniffles because you're out of that danger entirely. Now, Gene, there's been no oil, there's been no fire, there's been no gas, and there's no sniffles, is there? Try to find a sniffle.
No, sir.
There's no sniffle. In other words, this is just merely a continuation of the sob below conscious awareness, because when a person is scared, they're sobbing internally, aren't they? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Is that what they're doing? You know, because you've been frightened, then you know that that's what happens. And the minute they start crying way down deep inside, What happens if the tick isn't enough? What comes along to help it?
Gotta breathe.
You gotta breathe, sure. So that's Sniffles, isn't it? Now, there's no oil, there's no fire, there's been nothing. When I snap my fingers, there's no oil, no fire, nothing. And there's no Sniffles, is there?
Nothing.
Try to find one. In other words, you've been reliving below the level of consciousness two different things that were traumatic to you. First, being ridden around in a baby carriage in the first grade. But you don't have to worry about that because you notice that doesn't bother you anymore at all, does it? And the next thing was fighting that fire in which you were in mortal danger. But you know that you went safely through that danger and nothing bothered, did it? Now, knowing this, Gene, knowing that you safely went through the fire, and you safely went through the baby episode 2, you know that, it left its scar. Both things left their scar. But they don't have to leave a scar anymore, do they, Gene? They don't have to leave a scar. You're going to find a wonderful thing happens as a result of today's work with you. You're going to find that you sleep better, Gene. You're going to find that at night you don't have those thoughts that you have that keep you from sleeping. And I know that there's been times when you've found it pretty difficult to sleep, isn't that right? Okay. Because why? Because when the guards are down, you relive those terrifying incidents. And one incident was almost as terrifying as the other, wasn't it? See? But now, Gene, you're not going to have to relive them anymore because you've relived them now in this state. And that means that they're cleaned out of you. It's been like a mental cathartic for you. And you'll find that you won't have to sniffle anymore. Because you realize every time that you start to sniffle, you're reliving that firefighting episode, and you don't have to relive it, do you? It's gone. And you went safely through it, you came through it, and nothing happened to you. So the sniffles won't be there, and the tick won't be there. And when I have you open your eyes, it won't be just symptomatic relief, Jane. Any time you ever show a tendency to have the sniffles, or to have the tick, I want you to consciously bring to mind those two things. The baby carriage ride, because that's been a repression. You've held that back all these years, haven't you? It's probably the first time you ever told it, isn't it? Since it happened. That's what I mean by a repression. You hid it down deep inside because you were ashamed of it, isn't that so? Sure. But what is there to be ashamed of except the fact that you had a psychotic teacher? You know what I mean by that? A crazy teacher. A teacher who knew nothing about the handling of youngsters, but she didn't realize that she could damage a child permanently from such a terrible thing. So the teacher is to be blamed for that, not you. And you're going to know you won't have a tick anymore because any time that anything like that comes along, you're going to think of the baby carriage ride so that it comes consciously to mind, not unconsciously to mind. Do you see what I mean? So you don't relive it below the level of consciousness, but that you relive it at a conscious level. A sniffle, if you ever get a cold or anything like that and ever start to sniffle, you're going to think about the time that you fought the fire and you're going to say, I came through that safely, I don't have to sniffle. And you're going to find that the sniffle will be gone because that's merely another type of crying, isn't it? Can you see how the two things are related, Gene? Well, can't you see that both are cries? Can't you see that? Here's the boy crying because he's having such a disgraceful thing happen to him. The teacher's making a mockery of him before the class. And now the second time, here a man is scared to death. It's a man's fear. He's entitled to fear, isn't he? That's God's protective device in time of danger, isn't it? So you don't have to be ashamed of the fear, do you? Now the fear came along. And you were given this nature's device, this fear, to protect you. But nature said in relief, you have to cry a little bit because you feel better if you can let go of some of that tension. And so nature says, let it go in the form of a sniffle. And so you let some of that tension go in the form of a sniffle, but then nature has one fault. Nature doesn't know when to stop. Do you see what I mean? Nature doesn't tell you, now that the danger's gone, you can stop the sniffles. Nature says that was a protective device then, and the person who goes through such a terrifying experience will hold on to a part of that experience. And the easiest part of the experience to hold on to is the sniffles, because that's related to something that happened in childhood. I suppose you never associated, and I don't know if I'm making the association quite clear to you. Am I, Gene? That both of these things are cries of terror. Can you see that? The little child in the baby carriage. He's terrified, isn't he? This is the greatest insult he's ever had to his human dignity. He doesn't know that human dignity can be so violated. He doesn't know that, does he? It's an insulting thing. He doesn't know how to cope with it. And since he doesn't know how to cope with it, nature copes with it by giving him a sob below conscious awareness. Then later on, another episode occurs where he has fear. But it's related to the first fear, Gene. It's the same type of fear. It's a situation with which he cannot cope. Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. Not being able to cope with a situation, he is left with a little trace of it. And that's the sniffles, but you don't have to be left with it anymore. I think you're going to find that when you open your eyes, that you won't have the sniffles and you won't have the tick. And they won't come back if you follow my instructions to bring forth those repressions. Think of that firefighting incident. If it's the sniffles, think of that baby carriage incident. And don't be afraid to mention it in public. You know what that darn fool teacher did when I was 6 years old? Because you could laugh about it today, couldn't you? Now you would see it in its ridiculous light, and the teacher looks silly instead of you looking silly. Because if it happened to another kid, who would you feel sorry for? I know you'd feel sorry for the kid, but wouldn't you feel sorry that a teacher could be so dumb? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't you? You sort of feel that she was that she was the one at fault, not the kid in the carriage, because that's an insult beyond human dignity. Do you understand what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I want you to look upon it that way. Have sympathy now for the stupidity, the downright stupidity of that teacher, and also, if you bring that forth as a repression and bring it up to conscious level, you'll find you won't have the tick and you won't have the sniffles. If there's any tendency at any time to have either one, you know what to do. You think of the incident that caused it. And you'll find those things being related. I'd like to have you think of both those things so there's no tick and there's no sniffle when I have you open your eyes. Now open your eyes and notice how good you feel. I'm glad you did that, aren't you? I'm glad you did that, aren't you? Yeah. Now, clear that nose, and I don't think you want to.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. I think you're going to be all right. How do you feel?
Fine.
Yeah. Get rid of it. Now, remember, there can also be a habit. I don't want them to be any sniffles at all. And I want you, anytime there's the slightest tendency to sniffle, to think of that horrible episode where you were fighting the fire in California. Will you do that? Mm-hmm. Think of that episode and then see if you can sniffle. Now try to sniffle.
Breathe natural.
Breathe natural without a sniffle, can't you? All right. You'll find that you can breathe naturally from now on. And you'll find that tick is gone too. There doesn't seem to have been any tick since since afterwards. Be kind of good if it's gone completely, won't it, Gene? I think it will.